Welcome to Linda's Corner. My name is Linda Bjork, and today we're going to be talking about managing stress. I'm delighted to welcome special guest Phil Barth. Phil suffered a heart attack in 2015, and after his surgery, the doctor told him to learn how to manage his stress or to get ready for a bigger heart attack. As part of his recovery, he began a daily gratitude practice on Facebook called Great Things That Happen Today. And that led to his best selling book, Great Things Happen Every Day, Finding Joy with Family, Friends, and Banana Milkshakes. You can reach Phil on his website, philbarthbooks.com, and I'll include a link in the description. Welcome, Phil. I'm so glad that you could join with me today.
Thanks, Linda. I'm glad to be here.
I am delighted to have you, and I'm so happy that you look healthy and that you're still scanning. So I gave a super brief synopsis of what you experienced. Do you want to elaborate on that at all?
Sure. So early in 2015, I was giving a speech. I'm in Toastmasters, and I was giving a speech at a club and ran into an old friend of mine. And I said, "How you been doing, Tom?" And he said, "Well, I had a heart attack a while ago." And I'm thinking, this shouldn't happen to somebody like Tom because he's roughly my age, he's roughly my size. We're too young and maybe not in great shape, but in good enough shape that we wouldn't have a heart attack. And so I said, "Well, tell me more." And Tom is a pastor and a speaker. And if you tell somebody like that to tell you more, you're going to get the whole story. So he told me everything that led up to it and all the symptoms he had and gave me the whole story. So fast forward to July of that year, and I'm at summer camp, Boy Scout summer camp with my son, and I start getting a little shortness of breath, and the hills are a little higher to climb, and everything that happens, I'm checking off and saying, "Tom told me that, Tom told me that, Tom told me that." And I'm thinking, well, it can't happen to me. I can't have this heart attack because I've got too much going on. Right. I've got, next week, my wife and I are going to Las Vegas. I'm going to speak there. And then the week after that, I've got a conference in South Carolina. So after all of that, maybe I'll go to the doctor and see what's going on. Well, didn't even last the week. We played this game on Thursday called Hungry Human Hippos, where you have the Scoutmasters and one swings the other around on wheels. And the game Hungry Hippos.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
You're a human hippo and you're grabbing softballs and bringing it. So I got swung around a couple times and I said, "I feel terrible." And I went to the nurse, and about that time my wife called because I'd been telling her what was going on. And the nurse said, "Can I have your phone?" She said, "Hey, Beth, if this is my husband, I call 911. So went to the hospital, didn't know what was going on, and I had a small heart attack. And as you mentioned, the doctor afterwards said, "You need to manage stress." There was all the diet things, all the things I was expecting, right? Less salt, less fat, less caffeine, all the things that make life worth living. You have to cut back on those. But he was really, the heart surgeon said, "Look, we had a couple of blockages that we put stents in, and you had a blood clot, and you need to manage your stress." So I listened, and it was easy to rest right out the gate. You tell people at work, "Hey, I had a heart attack," and they give you all the rest you need. But after a while, I realized, you got to get back to work. And he made me promise, the doctor made me promise in front of my wife that I would take that, right?
That means business.
It's happening.
He's going to keep you accountable.
Yes, exactly. And he made me promise I would take 1 week off every 3 months. And so on that first week that we took off, we took a staycation and we went to the zoo. And at the end of the day, I got on social media and I said, here were the great things that happened today, and listed, seeing the baby animals and the gorillas and so on. And then the next day we went to the art museum, and same deal. I wrote down what was great about the art museum and some of the, fantastic paintings, and some paintings that make me think I could have been an artist, and everything in between. And so I started doing that. And every time I did it, I felt a little better. And what happened was I was kind of training myself to look at what was good in life. And that in a nutshell, made the big difference, and it lowered my stress because I started looking for what was good in life, what was right in life. It's really easy to find what's awful in life and what's bad, and just turn on the news or whatever. You will find all the bad news you want. But if you train yourself to really look for what's good, you start finding it, and your stress, it lowers your stress. So that's in a sort of made a short story long there, but that's how I manage the stress, and how I started to manage the stress.
And isn't that amazing that that's such a simple daily practice, and yet it causes real changes, not only in your stress level, but physiologically, it changes our body. And I love so much that you include gratitude as part of your stress management. Not a lot of people understand what a powerful tool that is, because people think, oh, that's a nice idea for people who are, you know, happy, cheerful people, but it won't work for like everybody. They don't realize that there's a cause and effect. But there have been so many studies done on the effects of gratitude and the body. It literally makes our brains more neuroplasticity, and increases the neuroplasticity, which helps us to be able to adapt to change, helps us to be able to adapt to stress. And like you said, it helps us to be able to focus and to be able to recognize what is good in the world. Because, like you say, all of these things are out there, and what matters is what we focus on. And it seems that the negative stuff is a whole lot louder.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a study, it goes back, it was in Scientific American, 1957. They talked about the brain's reticular activation system.
Yes, I wanted to talk about that. I'm so glad you brought it up. Go.
So the way I do this when I'm speaking to somebody is, I say, or a group, I say, close your eyes and think about the color green. And you close your eyes and you think about green for a while. And when you open your eyes, the first thing you're drawn to is something green. On my computer screen, I've got all kinds of colors, and my brain just fed me something green. And I've done it. I've done that where I'll do it in the morning, and then I'll be driving around, whatever the color is. It doesn't have to be green. I like green. It's kind of a calm, back to nature type of color. But whatever the color is, I was driving down the same road I've driven down every day to and from work, back when I drove to work and didn't work from home. And all of a sudden I noticed, because I was thinking about red earlier that day, I noticed a red chair on a neighbor's porch. And I know it had been there forever, but your brain just finds it for you. Or when you buy a new car, you're amazed by all the number of people who bought the same model and same color as you, because that's what you put in your brain.
Exactly.
And that's what I found, because I wasn't always looked for the good. I dabble in sarcasm still. I mean, I'm a guy. What are you going to do? But but I was sarcastic and would look for the bad. And once I started forcing myself to look for the good, once you seek the good, then your brain goes out and finds it for you. And so the more I wrote about it, the more it was easy to write about. And so that's the first thing I say. I say, seek the green. Green is the color I use to represent good. And I've got a nice green shirt on.
You do.
So you seek the green, and the more you see it, the more you're going to see it. And then the next piece of it is you save it. So when I find something that makes me happy, makes me laugh, whatever, I take a picture of it. I mean, we've got the cell phones. People are using cell phones so much. How about we use them for something that is positive? So I see something funny, or a picture of our dogs, or anything like that makes you happy. You just hit the camera and you take a picture of it. And then every so often I go through it.
Is that what you use for your Facebook posts, or the pictures that you take of something good, something beautiful?
It's the pictures. It works better when I put a picture on it. That shows people, here's what I'm talking about. Or I also have a gratitude journal. So in the day, I'll write that down. And then a lot of times it's first thing in the morning. Here's the great things that happened yesterday.
Oh.
And so you just look through the great things that, what's in your gratitude journal, what's in your camera roll, what happened, who did you talk to? And a lot of times I'll tag a Facebook friend. Hey, I ran into so-and-so at the grocery store. And they're like, oh, I was on great things. It's like, I enjoyed talking to you. Why wouldn't you be on that list? You're you're a wonderful person. We had a 5-minute conversation. It was one of the highlights of my day. So,
Oh,
um,
I love that. And I love the idea of looking for simple pleasures in the day. I think when you started and you were on that staycation, when you're doing something kind of different and new and exciting, like, oh, I went to the zoo and saw the baby animals, or I saw this great art painting, then you can think of it. But when we're in our normal cycle of daily routine, then sometimes it's a little harder to look for the good. We don't notice, we don't pay attention. But there are wonderful things all around us. And you say you do it in the morning and you hold it at night. I like to have a little gratitude journal and I write a couple things at night. Like what was I grateful for today? What was my success today? And that's kind of a because I have to look for it. Otherwise I can miss it.
yep, yep. I have the a journal app for the night, but then a lot of times I'm not going to go back onto Facebook because as much as I like to use Facebook for positive, it can be a total time suck. So if I'm getting ready to bed, I put it in the journal, and then the next morning when I get up, and there's a certain amount of time that I will spend doing the morning tasks, and so there's that little bit of time that I dedicate before I start my day to putting that out on social media.
Oh, that's wonderful. Brilliant. And your book, I love this title and I love that it includes milkshakes on there. What a great thing to be grateful for.
Yeah, my wife and I were talking, and she said, when we were growing up, we used to make banana milkshakes. Well, how would we make a banana milkshake? Ice cream, milk, and bananas, pretty much. And so we got a blender and we started doing that, and we experiment. We find frozen bananas, make a little thicker milkshake, and they're really good. And it's not something you can go to McDonald's or wherever and get. They don't normally do banana milkshakes for whatever reason. So we'll do banana milkshakes, or we've done blueberry as well. A little bit of frozen blueberries, a little blueberry jam, and frozen yogurt for the heart, not the full blown ice cream, and low fat milk. And yeah, it's just you sit down and put a little cinnamon in the banana milkshake, and spend a little time together at the end of the day with our sons.
And you were able to be grateful for that without chocolate syrup. See, that's the part where I think it could use a little upgrade, but you know.
Okay, so we tried it one time. We tried it with chocolate, and chocolate milkshakes are really good, and banana milkshakes are really good, but chocolate and banana in that milkshake recipe, the kids are like, nope, sorry, we'll go with one or the other.
Really, the kids said that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Good to know.
And the kids prefer the chocolate milkshake. So Beth and I prefer
Shockers.
the banana.
That is fantastic. So in your you talk about 7 S's of stress, successful stress management. Do you want to go over your 7 S's? I'd love to hear them all.
Sure, sure. So the first one we already talked about was seek the green. And there are sub S's, you seek it and you see it, you save it. We talked about that. The second one is subtract the red. So I like red. We've got a red car. I like the color red, but to put an opposite color out there from green, it's the red. It's kind of a high stress color in this analogy. And the easiest way you can subtract the red is by watching your social media consumption. And what are you looking at on social media? That's the absolute first thing. And
Above the news, even, huh?
well, yes, because the news is easy. You just turn it off, right? We will watch the local news, but frequently it's starting at quarter after so we can get the weather, and not the first 15 minutes. The news can be very, very negative, very stressful. And there was an experiment done, and then we'll get back to social media, but there was an experiment done in 2012 by some people in Harvard. And what they did was they divided their subjects into 2 groups. And the one started their day with solution focused news, and the other started their day with just regular in your face bad news. And as far as I know, they didn't like make it the opposing political parties news or anything. It was just normal bad news. And at the end of the day, the group that had the solution focused news was here, and the bad news people were 27% more likely to have reported having a bad day.
Mm.
It was only 3 minutes of news in the morning.
3 minutes. That's
3 minutes,
a powerful effect.
and you've given yourself a 1 in 4 chance of either having a good day or a bad day, just based on that first 3 minutes.
Okay, crazy. All right, so choose what you put in your head, especially in the morning. Okay, so back to social media.
Okay, okay. So
Limit
by the
social
way,
media.
by the way, I just stepped on number 3, which was start the day off right.
Oh,
But
oh, oh, well done.
didn't mean to do that. Okay, so back to social media. Eh, the average person, and this was the last time I saw the numbers was 2019, and I'm willing to bet that 2020 was higher since we were all locked in our houses. The average person spent 2 hours and 24 minutes on some sort of social media website. Now, that could be YouTube, that could be Facebook, uh, Instagram, you name it. Average person, 224 on there. And the thing I tell people is, if you are spending that amount of time, think about if you know somebody really negative in your life, and you're a group of you are going out to lunch, do you say, hey, let's invite the negative person? They'll just ruin our whole day. They'll complain about the food. They'll complain about the food. No, you don't. So why would you invite them into your life on Facebook or wherever else? And I have Facebook friends that I have unfriended because I don't want somebody to go, you're a friend with that person and the awful things they say. And I've got other ones that I just flat out block. It's, because if you're on Facebook, you know how it is, or any social media. I'm going to complain about politics. I'm going to complain about my family. I'm going to complain about all these things. And I like the person, but I don't want to have that on the top of my feed. I have other people that share positive, inspirational, those kind of thoughts. And those are the ones I want to hear from.
Yes,
And
and that's
so,
the kind of person I want to be as well.
exactly. And you are the sum of the people you hang out with.
That's
So,
true. We are very influenced by the people that we associate with and spend a lot of time.
so if I'm hanging out with negative people, that's who I'm going to be. And I don't want to be that person.
Okay, so
So,
limit our social media, and then we're going to start the day right.
right. And also kind of under the heading of subtract the red, stop taking yourself so seriously. This is advice for me. Okay. So quick story. The other day, I had a call in about one of my son's medical coverage questions. And so I'm down here in my office and I'm waiting for the call back. And I ran upstairs because, as we've already covered, the coffee is upstairs. And so I ran upstairs to make a K cup and I left my phone down here. And my phone was plugged into my Bluetooth speaker, which is also down here. And I was listening to some 80s music. And I also have the watch. And so the phone rings and I know this is probably going to be the medical question. And I'm not going to make it back down in time for the phone. Now, you can talk on your watch, the old Dick Tracy story where he talked on his watch. I don't like to do it. I know he looked really cool doing it. I don't. I look like a fool, but I answered it. And sure enough, it was a lady from the doctor's office validating his coverage or whatever. And I said, okay, so I'm sorry, I'm upstairs, I'm on my watch. I need to go back downstairs to the computer to get the information. And so she's like, oh, no problem, no problem. Nice as she could be. And as I got to the top of the stairs, I could hear my music was just blaring. And what had happened was you've got a volume control on your watch. And when I answered the phone, I put the volume to full blast on my watch, on the Bluetooth speaker. And so now I'm at the top of the stairs going, okay, I'm going to apologize again. It's going to get really loud in a couple minutes. And I came down and it was just blaring, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, some 80s music, just boom, boom, boom. And so I hit the Bluetooth speaker and I'm just thinking to myself, you work with technology. How could you have not known this? I'm just beating myself up mentally and apologizing all over myself. And the lady couldn't have been nicer. And so we're talking and all of a sudden she says, no, stop. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, what did I do? And I said, oh, I'm sorry. What's going on? And she said, no, I work from home too. And we've got our little boy and we're trying to potty train him. And he just came into the room I'm in and there's a bucket in the room and you can just about guess what the little boy decided to do in the bucket. And it just suddenly hit me. It's like, everybody's in the same boat here, right? I don't need to beat myself up for making a loud music or whatever the mistakes are. Everybody makes mistakes. And this lady was trying to tell me that, hey, it's cool, and it just was such a relief. And I laughed. I thanked her for solving the problem. I said, and thank you for being so kind and for making my day. And so,
Oh,
stop taking yourself so seriously.
I
And
love that, where you took a situation that could be stressful and turned it into something pleasant. And actually, you kind of accidentally or inadvertently set the stage so that she could do the same.
yeah,
Because,
but yeah,
you
exactly.
know, she she could have had a not good day if she was upset, uptight about that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So it was so good.
awesome. All right, so
All
don't take
right.
yourself too seriously and start the
Yep.
day well.
All right. Then subtract the red. You can't eliminate it. So, and this is kind of related to subtract the red, but subtract, don't eliminate the red. So there are some things where you've got bad news. You can't, I say subtract, you cannot make all the bad news go away. There are times when you have to acknowledge it. There are times when you have to say, okay, this is bad, and I have to do something about it. And what I say is, when you can't subtract anymore, then you add, which ADD is acknowledge, don't dwell. So acknowledge what's bad, and take whatever time you need to get through it. And depending on where you're at, that can be a little time or a lot of time,
Mhm.
but don't dwell on it any more than you have to. So that's good. What was that, 5? I think we're at 5.
I
I'm
lost
doing this.
track. It
Okay,
felt
all
like
right.
we
Well,
kept going back to subtract the red, so I wasn't sure what number we were on, but all is well.
four and a, 4.5.
All right, 4.5 then.
Okay, so you acknowledge don't dwell, and in 2019, my dad had struggled with a very long illness, and he passed away in 2019. So went to the funeral, the service on a Saturday, and then on Sunday back to Cincinnati, and I flew to Grand Prairie, Alberta, Canada. So the whole day is just on airplanes, and you got up there, and it's 2 time zones over, and it was just kind of crash and burn. And then the next morning I get up,
Let's not use
and
the word crash and burn with the flight. Just
oh, good point.
okay.
Good point. Okay, so we landed, and
Landed safely, felt like a crash and burn.
safely.
Okay, okay.
Took a 1 mile drive. I think the hotel was like within a mile of this little airport. It got to the hotel, and then yeah, I just tucked in my got in my bed, and so I'm 2 time zones over, and it's about 4 in the morning. I wake up, and then it suddenly hits me, right? I have just been through my dad's funeral and everything, and it's kind of hitting me, and so this is where I got to acknowledge, don't dwell, which brings us to the next S that I discovered at that moment. I'm like, well, I'm here. I'm going to go down to the fitness center and get on the treadmill. And before I did it, I said to my phone, and I'm not going to use the term I use because I don't want her to start talking to us. I said, play Waylon Jennings. And the reason I said Waylon Jennings was, as soon as I started listening to that, I'm no longer, mentally there with my 86-year-old father who's passed away. I'm in a station wagon with my 40-year-old father, and we're driving to Florida, and he's playing Waylon Jennings on the 8-track, and it just brought back that really happy memory. And so the S I have discovered is sing a song, although I don't sing, but just so many times music or songs take you back, and you hear a song and you go, I remember that I was doing this. And Waylon Jennings, I remember that we were in the station wagon headed to Florida. Or there's probably hundreds of them, and if you can channel that, it'll take you out of the bad memory and put you into the good one, because really that's how I want to remember my dad, is
Right.
the man who was taking his family down for a vacation, and the young guy who was so much fun.
That is beautiful. And
Yeah.
music, that is amazing. And I'm glad that you added sing along. Again, there's so much research that shows that that does incredible things, and it helps us to be able to feel things that any other medium can't get through.
Yeah.
So that is fantastic.
Yeah. And yeah, that one I kind of fell into that day in Grand Prairie. But and I say that the sad memories are kind of like Grand Prairie candidates. You visit them, but you don't want to live there,
Hmm.
or living in the past, because no kidding, it was September and it was 26 degrees Fahrenheit on the day we left. And we flew to Atlanta and it was 90. I had like a 65-degree change.
Whoa, that's significance.
And they told us up there they regularly have a week where it doesn't get above -40.
Ah,
That's Celsius and Fahrenheit are the same. And yeah, so nice place to visit. The past is a nice place to visit. Don't live there. Just a side note.
that is fantastic. I like that. We shouldn't live in the past. We should be able to visit. And not all of our memories in the past are happy. So you're remembering a beautiful, wonderful memory with your dad, and that is a wonderful place to visit. But I think there are some parts of our past that I think is best not to continue to go back and dig things up. But it would be best to just say, that did happen. And let's
Yep.
acknowledge it. I love your
Yep.
acknowledge, don't dwell. And then let's leave that one behind and move forward.
I was reading a book recently that said, picture it in your mind. If it's a bad memory, put it in your mind and then turn the lights down until it goes dark. And if it's a happy memory, turn the lights up until it's a very, very bright memory in your mind. And it works.
I like that. What we turn the light on. Beautiful. Okay. Was that the 6th or the 7th?
I think that was 7.
That was 7. So you got through all of them. They're
Oh,
fantastic.
no. I'm sorry. That was 6 because I'm looking at number 7 right here on the
Oh.
on my. See, I've got them like the high points, and number 7 is share the love.
Ah,
So, and couple of things. One time earlier on, my mom sent us she came into some money and sent us a check and said, do whatever you want with it. And so I wrote her a thank you note and said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take in March, we're going to take the kids to Disney and go on a Florida vacation, because I remember the station wagon and you and dad and my brother and I going down there. And those are the greatest memories. And I can't think of anything better than to pay it forward. Real, 2-minute note. And she called me like 2 days later when she got it, she said, that was the nicest note I've ever received. Thank you so much. And
really?
yeah. And it just hit me like, that check was so nice, but it made her day. And then hearing that lowers my stress. And there was another time I grew up a Cleveland sports fan. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. And one of the writers for the Cleveland Plain Dealer, Cleveland.com now, put out an article on Thanksgiving. He said, hey, I'm thankful I got the greatest job in the world, and I'm thankful for my audience. And there was a link, to this. His name's Terry Pluto. And there was a link. So I clicked on it. And I sent him an email. I didn't expect anything out of it. I just wanted to tell the guy, hey, Terry, I live now 4 hours away from Cleveland, and you keep my Cleveland sports fandom alive. And thank you for that. And it was like an hour later, he sent me a message back. You made my day.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And I didn't mean to, but it worked out that way. And then that makes me feel better. So when I share the love, I'd like to say I'm being altruistic, but it makes me feel better too. So it's good for me when you share the love and you say thank you, or tag people on a great things post or whatever it is. When you acknowledge, hey, you are a great person, thank you for what you did, it makes you feel better and it lowers your stress.
That is absolutely true. It is a total win-win.
Yep.
That's
And I will tell you, I wanted to bring this up, and I don't know if share the love is the right spot to bring it, but scientifically, if you can have 3 positive thoughts for every 1 negative, you will keep the hormones in your brain and in your heart and everywhere else in line. So you go for 3 to 1, and all the research I read says do that. So it's by sharing the love, it's by looking for the good things in life, it's by limiting the bad things in the social media and the negative news. You can either increase the numerator or lower the denominator, but 3 to 1, you're going to be in good shape.
That's beautiful. And this stuff really works. I mean, this is not just, oh, this is a really good idea for people who want to, maybe are already sunshiny and that's just what they do. This is for anybody. And this makes a not only a mental and emotional difference, but a physical difference. And I really hope that people recognize that there are things that we can do to help improve our physical health and our mental health and our emotional health. And I invite and encourage people to do these things that Phil's saying. He's spot on. So
They,
thank
they
you.
are so interconnected, the
Mhm.
mental, the emotional, and the physical. I don't think
Absolutely.
we even understand how, and the spiritual. I just don't think we understand
Sure.
how connected they are yet, but we're starting to get there.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we get little snippets, little insight, like your experience, where it's like, oh, I could die, or I could choose to be grateful. So it, these kinds of things sometimes are a wake up call, but it really, really does make a difference. So thank you for sharing these things, and thank you for visiting with me here today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for what you're doing.
Oh, it's a pleasure. In closing, I'd like to share a quote from actress Brie Miller. She said, "Gratitude can reduce your stress and anxiety." Today, I invite you to reduce your stress and anxiety by actively looking for things to be grateful for. See you next time on Linda's Corner.